Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Fanatics. I'm Braden.
And I'm Brannick.
And today we'll be reviewing the third Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. But before we get started, like the previous two reviews in this series, this review is going to contain spoilers. If you've never seen this movie or you just don't care about spoilers, there will be spoilers. Let's talk about my favorite Indiana Jones movie. Brannick, what were your first thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Well, initial thoughts on it are, again, very strong, just like the first two. Maybe the second one might have not as strong as the first one, but this one kicks off very well. I especially like the opening. It gives a little bit of an Indiana Jones backstory, which I was not expecting, but I really like. I like the scene where he gets his hat, and then it transitions to him looking up with the same hat. That's nice. I really like that part a lot. Overall, the movie is very good. It's a little different than the first two in terms of the story beats and how the action is laid out and stuff, but it's still very good. I like this movie. Braden?
Well, of course, as with the first two movies, I've seen this movie so many times. This is my favorite for reasons that we will talk about in this video, but overall, I think this movie is really strong. It's different, but it kind of feels like a sequel to Raiders, because the second one, Temple of Doom, was just some crazy thing that happened, and Spielberg got a lot of hate for that movie, so he wanted to make a sequel to Raiders and kind of forget Temple, which, it's fine, but I love this movie because of multiple things, and I think the artifact, the Holy Grail, is the most interesting artifact he went after. So those are my initial thoughts of this movie. But let's talk about, first of all, Brannick, is this so far your favorite of the Indiana Jones movies?
Yes. So far, this one is my favorite that I've watched. I thought, first thoughts, going around the halfway point of the movie, I was thinking it's just about on par with the other one, and I was having a really hard time deciding if it was better than the first two. So, but by the end, I knew for certain that this is the best Indiana Jones movie that I've seen so far. I haven't seen Crystal Skull yet, but so far...
Don't say those words. Don't say those words, Brannick. Don't say them.
I'm open to watching it, but especially after this one. This one is very good, so yes, this one is my favorite.
And I think what makes this movie so great is the movie isn't about action like the first two are, because the first two are very action heavy. Now, Last Crusade has action, but it's sprinkled at certain points in the movie. It's not like Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
It's action, but it's action in the way that it's not supposed to be like an action movie, which is so great about this movie. Also, it's so emotional. Like, it's so great because you have Indiana Jones, but his dad is what really makes this movie amazing. It's because their chemistry is on point in this movie, and this movie is really funny too. This is a really funny movie, especially with as we said, his father as well as his friend Brody, who is awesome in the movie. But yeah, what did you think when you first saw his father in this movie? Like, what were your first thoughts?
I was a little shocked. I didn't expect him to act the way that he did. That was when he rescued him. I forgot about the first time we saw his father, which doesn't really count. But the first time we actually meet his father, I was a little shocked. They set it up early on that he hasn't been the most involved father with Indy's life.
No.
They haven't spoken in decades, apparently. Did they say 20 years?
Decades.
20 years, okay.
I think so,
okay,
yeah.
So it's been a long time. Their relationship is in tatters, pretty much. So I was interested to see how they repair that, and they definitely do by the end, which we will get into.
Yes, yeah.
But, yes. Initial thoughts on the father, I didn't expect it. I expected him to just kind of be more like an older Indy, just kind of the same character, but...
No, he's very different.
He's very different, which is good, because if he was just an Indy clone, this movie would not have been as good as it is.
Yeah, And I love how his father is not just a clone of Indy. I love how he's totally different. And throughout this movie, his father is not impressed by anything Indy does until the end of that tank chase where his father says, "Well done, son." And that's when you start to see their tattered history really be repaired, that his father is now impressed and also happy that he even survived that, which is insanity that he actually survived that. But yeah, let's just talk about some of our favorite scenes in this movie, because this movie is awesome. Brannick, go first.
Okay. Well, I have 2 notable scenes.
Okay.
Maybe 2.5. 2.5 to 3. No, let's go with 3. So, first I want to mention the plane scene in its entirety. That scene was really fun. It was funny, when the dad shot the, whatever it's called, the tail off of the plane.
The tail.
And he said, "We got hit." That was pretty funny. The action in the scene is really good. I especially like how, at the end, Indy sees that his dad is more capable than he once thought.
Oh, yeah.
There's the look on his face where he sees, oh, wow.
He's pretty cool.
He's not actually useless. Because the whole time he's kind of been like, "Come on, Dad." Like he's just a weight that's just holding Indy back.
Yeah.
But that's when he first realized that, Yeah, I also like the tank scene. Of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the most exciting action scene in the movie by far, in my opinion. I love every second of it, honestly. It's really great. They set up how important and dangerous the tank is from the very beginning. Of course, we know how dangerous a tank is, but the fact that they describe it as a beast, they say the dad is in the belly of the metal beast, I think that's a great way of adding something to the threat of the tank, which is good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course, the scene, that's from my eyes, the start of when they really begin to repair their relationship, when Indy's dad thinks that he died, and then he finds out. That's really good, but that's not my favorite scene. My favorite scene is the scene where they're trying to reach the cup, and Indy
Yes.
is just reaching. He's like, yes. That's the best scene in the movie. That's my favorite Indiana Jones scene so far. The dad tells him to just finally calls him something besides Junior.
Yeah.
Finally calls him Indiana, and he says, "Let it go." And that's great because it's probably the most emotionally resonant point in the movie, because the dad has been searching for the Holy Grail his entire life, and he gave the chance up to save his son, and that's my favorite scene in the movie. Brayden?
Yeah. Basically everything you just said. I love the tank battle is my favorite action scene. I think it tops the minecart chase in Temple of Doom. I think it totally tops that. I think it's so emotional because it's the first time that Indy's hat blows off at the end of that scene, and even since we know that he's not gonna die, for a split second you think, is he gonna die? Which I think is masterfully done.
Yeah.
And his face as that tank goes over that cliff, he's like, am I gonna die? And I adore that shot of the three of them staring down, his dad almost in tears, and you see Indy just walk up and like stumble up behind them, and his dad does a double take. He's like, and then he looks back and his son's right there. And just so amazing. And I love that line. Where is it? I love that line. I thought I lost you, boy. It puts a smile on my face. It really does. Because he thinks that he just lost his son in this insanity of an action scene, but no. Because Indy survives by a thread, and that's what makes him great, is that he survives by a thread. And also the three trials, the end. Indy is doing this not because he wants that grail. He doesn't care about the grail. He just wants to save his dad. That's all. And he doesn't care about this cup because it's just gonna be thrown in a museum. He cares because his dad is shot by Donovan. And he's like, if I don't do this, my dad will die. And that's emotionally resonant. And of course, that line, Indiana, let it go. And it's just so great. And also, Brannick, were you shocked when his dad was shot?
Oh yeah, it took me a second for them to set in, for the realization that it was him that got shot. I thought for sure he shot Indiana, but that didn't make sense with the line that he said beforehand. And then it just catches you by surprise, because that is the last thing I expected, because no one's ever really died in any of these movies, pretty
except
much.
The villain.
Except for the villains. None of the main characters have really ever been that close to death. I guess Marion, but that doesn't really count.
No.
She wasn't even on the truck.
Honestly, she wasn't on the truck. Yeah.
I was actually expecting for them to kill the dad. I was actually starting to get worried, because I hadn't seen the movie before. I didn't even know Indiana's dad was in it. So I don't know if he made it out either. So
now, closing out this review, we would like to kind of go over the whole climax and the whole third act, because it's probably the best third act of these movies. So, it starts with them kind of sneaking in to this big mountain cavern almost, and they see what the first trap does. It decapitates someone, which is kind of scary, honestly.
Yeah.
So they get captured, of course, and the villain who we meet really early on in the movie, like he gets introduced in like the first 20 minutes, is like, you are going to uncover this artifact for us. And he's like, over my dead body. And the guy's like, you know, you're right. And he shoots his dad. And I love how all sound just cuts out for like a brief second. Like, all sound just cuts out as his dad falls into Indy's arms. And so he is then forced to face the 3 challenges. And Brannick, you go over the first challenge.
Okay, well, the first challenge is pretty straightforward. It basically tells them to like kneel before God or something like that. And that is supposed to be taken literally, because a giant blade comes and would have cut off Indy's head like the one guy if he didn't kneel. So that's the first challenge. Pretty straightforward. The second challenge is...
Yeah, it's the most...
Yeah.
But the first challenge is probably the most scariest one.
Yeah.
So the second challenge...
Yeah, you go to the second
challenge. Is spelling the name of God. And Indy's like, Jova, but... Jova begins with an I in the Latin language, I believe, is what he says. So he goes for a J and it falls through a hole, and of course he climbs back out, and then he spells it. Which leads to one of the most epic scenes in a movie. And it's not an action scene. It's not a big, epic scene. It's a simple scene. Brannick, you go over that very emotional scene of the final challenge.
Okay, well, the final challenge is basically there is a giant chasm, I'm gonna call it. I don't know what it actually the correct scientific term is.
A big chasm.
It's a big pit. So he has to take a step of faith, is basically what it is. He has to believe in himself that he will not fall. He has to believe in, I guess, the power of God, that he won't plummet to his death. And he takes a step and he doesn't fall. And for a second, I thought there was actually nothing there. But then, in a great shot, the camera pans over, and there's actually a rock, bridge, effectively, that goes from one end to the other.
Yeah, a bridge.
But on top, it looks like it's an optical illusion that makes it look like there's nothing there, which was really cool. And I really liked that part. That one was
and I love how
challenge.
And I love how he says, no one can jump this. And then he starts to look back, and he starts to leave, and then Marcus says, Indy, come quickly, you must hurry. And so he turns back and is like, it's a leap of faith. And he all sound again cuts out completely, as he takes that step, and as you said, that great shot is that it's just an optical illusion, and he walks across, and he throws some rocks on it. Don't know why he throws rocks.
That's a good question. I was kind of confused. I guess so he could find his way back, but if he knows...
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I don't know.
It's fine. It's not a flaw. It's just
But
a little interesting
it's not that
thing.
big of a deal. Yeah, I guess.
But he
doesn't
makes
really
it to the back room where there's an 800-year-old knight guarding him who almost kills Indy. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
he almost kills him. But he falls back in kind of like a funny way. And then Donovan and I think her name is Elsa, right?
Yeah.
Come in, and they screw things up a little bit. Because Indy is like explaining to this guy about my dad's about to die and stuff, and then they interrupt. And Brannick, you want to tell the viewers what Elsa does to Donovan. You explain that.
It's rather unclear if it's intentional or not, but I believe that it was.
I think it is, yeah.
I think it's intentional. Just the look on her face. I don't think she was prepared for what was actually going to happen based on her screaming, but yeah. So basically, again, one of the cups is not the real one. Or, well, no, one of the cups is the real one.
Well, all of them except one.
All of the other ones are fake. Yeah, that's what I meant. So one of them is going to give you eternal life, and one of them is going to kill you. So
basically,
she picks out what she believes to be the most beautiful cup, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, it's gold. That's definitely the right one." So he drinks from it, and he just starts rapidly aging until he disintegrates. So there's that.
And it's a great effect, though. It's a great effect.
It looked very cool. And then Indy chooses the right cup, which is the Holy Grail, and it's Carpenter's cup, which is how he knew it was the visually least appealing cup, which makes sense in terms of like the whole humility thing. But yeah, so.
And and when he drinks again, all sound cuts out. Like the score cuts out for like a brief second. Everything cuts out, and then he smiles. He's like, "Yes, this is it." And then they go back through the thing, and he saves his father. And Marcus actually makes the sign of the cross, which is a great little, just a little, you know, I don't know, just it's a trait. It's a trait.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy, and Sola picks up a gun and says, "Drop your guns, please."
Yes.
Which is great, of course. Mm-hmm. And I love how his dad puts it down. He's like, "Okay, we're done. Let's go." But Elsa crosses the Great Seal, which is forbidden, and she has the cup. And one thing leads to another, and the whole thing starts to collapse. And Elsa falls to her death because of her greed. Her greed is what kills her. And plus that Indy was slipping away, basically. But when Indy is about to fall to his death, his dad is a hold of him, and it's the same exact lines almost. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Indiana, let it go." And you see the look on his face, like, my dad, who has been searching for this thing, like you said, like, you know, earlier, is willing to let it go. He should too. And they do, and they run out of there. As the building doesn't really collapse, it's still standing. It just, the floor and stuff collapsed on itself. And of course, it leads to a great ending scene where they talk about Indy's name, and his dad's like, "Indiana? We named the dog Indiana," which is so funny. It's so funny. And Solo, of course, laughs, and is in the nature of his character, of course. And they literally ride off into the sunset. They literally do, and it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it's fine.
And that was the greatest end to a trilogy into this character. But in 2008, they made Indiana Jones and the Crystal Temple Skull? No. Kingdom of the Crystal Temple? No. something like that. I don't know. It's the fourth one.
It does.
But anyway,
That's
Brannick.
just a movie.
Yeah, honestly, Brannick, what is your final grade on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Like I said, this is easily my favorite. It's everything I didn't know I wanted from Indiana Jones, because I always perceived the series as just, okay, this is an action series, show me some punches and guns, I'm fine. But it takes that and also adds an emotional story at the core, and it really did it for me. It's also a pretty funny
humor,
movie.
too.
Oh yeah,
It's a really
very
funny movie.
My personal favorite scene of like a humor scene is when he bumps into Hitler, and then Hitler just kind of signs his book.
Oh my
and
gosh,
moves on.
yes.
It's intense for a
Yes.
second, but then that's a great punchline. It's very good. So this is easily my favorite so far. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Again, with the 9 out of 10s. Again with the 9 out of 10s, Brannick. Again. Are you serious? Of course, as you know, I love this movie. It's actually in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I've loved this movie forever. This movie absolutely gets an A+. And that's it. That's the end to one of the greatest adventures ever put to film. Stay tuned for next Thursday with our review of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull Temple or something like that. Is that what it's called?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I don't figure it out. It's the fourth one. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and write comments below about your thoughts on The Last Crusade. And actually, throw in your thoughts on the fourth movie. And I will see you next time. This has been Braden.
And Brannick.
From the Movie Fanatics, signing